Hey, it's Doug Miller with Fleetwood Motorhomes. We are here in Decatur, Indiana in the manufacturing facility. And today we're going to put together a 4-part series that includes 40 of the top features of a brand new Class C motorhome, the Fleetwood Altitude. We're going to go from a raw chassis, which you can kind of see here, I'm in chassis prep, all the way through sidewall set into interior integration, exteriors, graphics, features, and content, all the way through a finished product. So this is going to be part 1, and I hope you really enjoy the information provided, and this does help you in making your decision when it comes to your next Class C motorhome. Hey, so part 1 of our 4-part series, I really want to take a few minutes and focus on the components that you can't see or you don't realize that are there once you're at the dealership or on the lot looking at a Class C motorhome. These are things that we're going to take a peek at before the coach is built, so you have a full understanding of what makes this product so good. The first step is the DX experience. So the DX experience is driving experience, and there are 4 parts. So as you do research on the Class C and you see DX4 and wondering what that means, one of the main components is the RS suspension. The RS suspension is a rear shackle spring. It's a rear shear type assembly, so it controls a lot of your sway in the rear end of these coaches. It also controls the diving. So when you hit the brakes in any kind of situation, you don't want to have a lot of nosedive. So this system back here allows you to prevent from roll and also prevents you from diving. So a great suspension system back here. It's an enhancement put on by our partners up at Moride. They're the ones that do the chassis upfitting, so all the bars you see going across the chassis rails. So that's part 1 of that DX experience. Moving forward, and we'll come back to one other one. Moving forward, we have a computer balanced drive shaft. It goes down from the transmission to the rear differential. And the reason why I say computer balance is anytime that a manufacturer requires a chassis extension, the chassis upfitter, which I mentioned before, Moride, has to be certified from that chassis supplier. So in this case, it happened to be Ford. They have to be certified to stretch the chassis, but then he also has to custom tune that drive shaft per the wheelbase and the new wheelbase and the length of what that product is going to be. So that's part 2 of that DX experience, is a computer balanced drive shaft. We'll come back here real quick. Something else that we offer as part of the owner experience package and this DX4 is an oversized or an overrated rear roll stability bar. And you'll see that back here at the back. So as I lift this up, you can kind of get a little pan of what that's going on back there. That's that U-shaped tube that is in the back. It's that rear sway bar. So that it does exactly what it's intended to do, is keep the rear of the coach from swaying and improve your overall driving experience. Now going to the front of the coach is one of the finer tuned pieces to this chassis. That's the Bilstein Steering Stabilizer. And what that's going to do is it's going to keep some of those minute road vibrations and control features while you're in the cockpit, while you're in the cabin driving down the road, and provide you with a superior driving experience. We'll go up and get a little peek of that too. Keep in mind the DX4 is only going to be found on this particular coach. So it's a great feature. And those 4 components together are going to make up a great overall driving experience. Make sure you can see what that looks like, components right from Bilstein. So that's the main guts of the driving platform itself, but I did want to touch on a few things as we kind of pan through, just so you can kind of see. And again, these are things you can't see when the coach is built, because you have the fiberglass sides and you have the flooring on the inside and the coach looks all beautiful and things like that. So some of the stuff that they do at Moride is they're actually welding and integrating all these trusses and platforms onto the chassis rails themselves to provide a really strong structural foundation for what this motorhome is going to be able to provide you with years of great service and great fun in the outdoors. Moving back to the back, something I want to point out before we go into our next little brief segment on some other components that you won't see once the coach is finished, is this will actually be a carrying cage that's pre-assembled and built in for a holding tank. There are other holding tanks that are built throughout the entire chassis platform itself, but this is one that's unique and different. So we're going to buzz up to the next chassis in line, and I want to show you a few more features in this segment. So moving up from the DX experience into what we call the class of Tuffs. So we have Tuff-Ply, Tuff-Coat, Tuff-Pex. All those things mean something. In the Tuff-Ply, we're talking about the roofing component that's very pliable. It's a system out of polyurethane material called polyolefin, and it's very flexible. It goes across the roof. It's a stress-free environment. It is flexible. It's pliable. It is skid resistant, impact resistant, easy to use. It's walk-on friendly. That's the part that we're going to use on the roof. It's kind of tough to see that from down on the main floor here, but hopefully we'll get you pictures of that coming up sometime soon. The other Tuffs are the Tuff PEX. So I've got a sample of the Tuff PEX in the plumbing tubing here. You're going to find some more of that back here at the back as it comes out of the main holding tank. You'll see some more up here. This is probably the key area in which to focus in, is you'll have two different lines that are running throughout the entire coach, which are considered PEX tubing. So PEX has the fitting, the rings, and the pipe. Obviously the blue is for cold, the red is for hot. But as you can see, those kits are already pre-custom designed for what floor plan this is going to be on. So a lot of thought goes in. The print packages have to be updated and correct for assembly. So when the assemblers are fed the components from the line rolls, they get brought in here, they get assembled onto the platform, and we move on from that. So moving on from there, the other thing is Tuff-Coat. Tuff-Coat is the exterior fiberglass skin. And the one thing that's unique about our products here are that we'll actually use a solid fiberglass. Now you may hear me refer throughout this 4-part segment to industry standard. And I'm not picking on anyone in particular, and I don't want to call anyone out in particular. I'm just saying, if you hear those words industry standard, that is what the industry has agreed that is sufficient in the RV space. A lot of times here, we will do things that are above the industry standard. There's things that such as vacuum bonding, those things such as what I just mentioned in the Tuff-Ply, the Tuff-Coat, the Tuff PEX. Those things aren't mandated by any kind of an RVIA standard. They are our standard, but we try to go above and beyond to provide you the best quality components that we possibly can from the start of the chassis to the final line roll when it comes out and heads to the dealership for you to purchase. Tuff-Coat. So let's talk about Tuff-Coat real quick. The unique property on Tuff-Coat is it is a solid fiberglass. It's a company called Vetra Resina, and they've been supplying us parts and pieces in the fiberglass space for years. The cool thing about that product is it laminates very well. So in our vacuum bonding process, and obviously this is a floor, but it's the same kind of principle as it would be for a wall. So you have the bottom side, you have the tubular frame with the foam on the inside, plus you have the inside skin. And then these floors, walls, and ceiling components are subjected to hundreds of thousands of pounds of vacuum pressure in a vacuum chamber for nearly 45 minutes to an hour. That's a huge process when you consider industry standard is to pinch roll, or to use a hung wall type process, or just to lay the floor together in a sandwich type application. We don't. We vacuum bond all those components. So it's a great construction feature. Again, this is something you won't see. You wouldn't know you didn't have this unless you see it here first. So I mentioned the Tuff-Coat. I mentioned the vacuum bonding. We talked briefly on the Tuff PEX, which is the tubing, and the Tuff-Ply, which is the roofing. But I wanted to show you a real quick example of what and how that whole system goes together. So if we can get an edge shot, if you come around here to get an edge shot, this is the Tuff-Coat. That's the exterior skin. And as you can see right here, it's a full fiberglass skin that's laminated to that Luan substructure, or excuse me, to the aluminum substructure. The only place where we have a Luan type or a wood type panel is on the inside of the coach. We don't want any wood on the outside. Fiberglass doesn't care if it gets wet, but wood does. So we just use a solid fiberglass on the outside. Industry standard is to take a really thin layer of fiberglass and laminate that to a piece of Luan wood and put that on the outside of the skin, or to take a product called Asdel, which is a composite material that has the fiberglass skin laminated to it. We choose not to use that. We actually choose to use the solid skin of the fiberglass. And you can kind of see here on the edges also, if you focus down here a little bit, you'll see this black coating that's on there. That's an anti-wick. So anytime that black rubberized coating is on an exposed piece on the outside, its design intent is to keep any kind of moisture and prevent a barrier, or create a barrier to prevent moisture from getting inside there. So that's a really good feature as well. And again, this wall is subjected to hundreds of thousands of pounds of vacuum pressure in that vacuum bonding process. If we get a few seconds, I'd love to take you over to the vacuum bond table so you can kind of see what that looks like. So we're very fortunate here today to have full access to the manufacturing facility. There are a couple things that I want to hammer on in the last part of this first segment. One of those is the Tuff-Ply roofing. I want to make sure we can see what that pliable, flexible thermopolyolefin looks like and feels like. The other is the power lock system. So the power lock system is a system designed by us that allows for our roof structure to interlock with our sidewalls. So when the sidewalls go on the side of a Class C, they are fastened into the side, into the metal framing. And then at the top, the roof will actually lock in. So if you can come around this side, I can show you what that interlocking piece on the top looks like. And I can also show you the flexibility and the pliability of the roof coating. So as you can see, it has a little bit of a hairy back here. That's going to allow the glue to set in, so you have a nice adherence on top of the coach. But you can see it's very, very pliable, very flexible. So it lays across the radius of the roof without a stress-free environment to live in the rest of the life of the coach. And if I can just pull this vinyl back, which is part of another segment, you can kind of see where this all interlocks and has these pieces here. The wall will actually go up and set inside that channel, and then it'll fasten in from the top, creating a nice solid structure. So it can't move up, it can't move down, it can't move side, it can't move front to back. It stays right there locked in its place. And then one last thing, we can kind of get a shot down through here. We do have a full-length ducting. So down the center of the coach, we don't do a direct drop into the middle, so the air conditioners only provide air to certain parts of the coach. We actually have a full insulated ducting that goes the entire length of the ceiling, so you're getting air throughout the entire coach. When you have a single roof air on, or if you have the optional dual roof airs, you're getting great air conditioning potential and quality throughout the entire coach, instead of having it just dumped into one section. So that's going to wrap up segment 1, and then we're going to focus on 2, 3, and 4 coming up here shortly.